The base that I'm about to show you gets harder to raid the longer you're offline. Let's just jump right into it and go over how to build this base, all the tricks behind it, and just why it works. But real quick, if you want to support someone doing something truly moronic every now and then in Rust, feel free to hit the subscribe button. So to kick this build off, we're going to be putting down a nice 2x1 foundation setup like so, and on top of that foundation setup, we're going to be putting down some wall frames. So lay them like this. The wall frames are going to be stacked 2 high, 2 on each side. So that's the base platform that we're going to be building our base on top of. Now we're going to put down 2 more foundations. These should stay twig. So now on top of that, you're going to be putting down that sloped roof. And that is going to be the entryway to your base. So if you haven't guessed it yet, we're going to be building this base 2 stories or 2 blocks high in the sky. So right now you're going to put down 2 sort of ceiling tiles or floor tiles, and you're going to build the basic 2x1 using those tiles. Everybody knows how to build a 2x1. The only difference here is your 2x1 is going to be just a little bit higher than everybody else, and not because you decided to hotbox it. So we've got that down. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to drop in that door and that TC. All right, so now we're just going to put down a nice little triangle floor, and now we're going to use that to create an airlock. So with our airlock down, we can blow up those twig foundations, and this is our base. This is our base in its final form. How are you going to access that base? So you're going to put down 2 more twig foundations, and then you're going to put those sloped roofs on top of them. So right here, you've got the basic layout for your base. There's a few things though that we need to do to make sure that this thing just can't be completely and utterly destroyed by anyone who comes along. So first things first, to prevent soft siding, you're going to want to upgrade those bottom foundations to either sheet metal or armor. I'd recommend armor because that's just the hardest thing to soft side through, but that is one weakness to this base. In addition, you want to upgrade those upper floor tiles to armor or sheet metal for the same reason. Don't worry about the airlock. If you want, you can upgrade that, but it's not as big of a deal. In addition, in the middle of those 2 foundations, you can add more supporting beams. This is going to make it just a little bit harder to destroy your base from underneath. It always is a possibility, but it is fairly hard to do unless someone really wants to take out 3 stone pillars, and you can always upgrade those to sheet metal or armored for additional support. Now for your entryway, this is what you're going to want to upgrade to. I'd recommend upgrading to wood. Don't go any further than wood. You're going to find out why later, but I would upgrade it to wood so if someone's shooting at you and you're running into your base entryway doesn't just decay from underneath you. You can leave this as twig, that foundation right there, because it really doesn't matter. So first things first, inside of the base, for some additional security, you can put a sheet metal or garage door inside, decorate it like you would a normal 2x1, and you're all set to go. So now let's get into how this base gets harder to raid the longer you are offline. Well, that is simple. The only thing that is built with wood on this base is that entryway ramp. So what you do before logging off is you pull the wood from your TC. What this means is that ramp is going to decay, and the longer it decays for, the harder it is going to be for raiders to blow through that first door without destroying the entryway. Once this ramp disappears, a raider's task gets all that much harder because now this is what they're looking at. And it does look like a bit of a daunting raid for 2x1, so a lot of raiders are going to see this and just walk on by. But if you get a conniving little fucker, they're going to try and get in, and this is what they're going to be dealing with. First off, they're going to have to place a ton of ladders just to get access to that door. Once they have access to that door, they obviously have to blow the door up, which means either they're going to be standing on top of your base, trying to throw explosives at the door, shoot rockets at the door. They're going to be shooting them from the ground, which is a bit far, or they're going to be throwing C4 or even satchel charges at the door and then dropping down from the ladders. Additionally, it gets even harder because you can't actually place a triangle floor anywhere near this door, because if you go to place it on that door side, it's not going to place because it's too far from any supports, and you can't place it on that bottom wall because you're trying to place through a wall and there's nothing for it to attach to down below. That's additionally why I didn't put any supports there. You can add supports anywhere you want to make this base harder to raid or harder to destroy from down below, but you do not want to add supports under this wall that I'm standing on right here, because that makes it all that much harder to raid. So now let's say the raider actually does manage to get the door off. Things get even harder now, because assuming that they're not using any sort of silent raid techniques, they're going to have made a lot of noise. And when you make a lot of noise, people come. And if you've got this sort of catastrophe of ladders here, it is going to be quite difficult for you to get up them and into the door while you're under fire. So what this means is if you happen to log on, it's a lot easier for you to defend from above, A, and B, if any friends or even enemies are online, they'll be able to go and counter fairly easy, get some easy loot, and your base is likely still going to remain untouched. To make matters worse, if you come back and you find that your base has been attacked or whatever, it's very easy to repair. It's hard for the raiders to get access to that door, but for you, you just put down some new foundations. They don't even have to be anything outside of Twig, and you can run up, replace all your doors, and you're good to go. So now let's get into the cost to actually build this base. So what it's going to require is 1,096 wood, and if you use Twig, that's going to be decreased, 3,870 stone, and 76 high quality metals. The upkeep for 24 hours isn't daunting whatsoever. It's 10 high quality metals, 473 stone, 74 metal fragments, and 19 wood. And again, you're not even going to be adding that wood. So now let's jump into some of the alterations that you can make to this base. So obviously, instead of those wall frames, you could use actual walls. It's going to be a little bit harder to destroy, but there's really no advantage here, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. In addition to that, you can also make the base a varying amount of heights. It's going to work. The taller the base is, the better it is, but the taller it is, the more resources it costs. So if you want something that's just a bit smaller, you could do something like this, which is just a 1-story high base. The foundation is raised up a little bit too, so that gives you a little bit of extra oomph right there. And again, if you do something like this, it's going to take less wood to even build that entryway ramp. So yeah, the higher the base is, the more wood it takes to build that initial entryway ramp, which could just fully decay while you're offline, but easier it is for people to reach it. So yeah, less wood, that's always good or bad, depending on who you are, but yeah, less wood's good in this situation. In addition to that, there's going to be less decay for you to manage because you've got 2 less door frames or wall frames. That said, wall frames don't really cost that much. Next up, what you can do if you want is instead of using a twig or wood foundation, you can use stone foundations and put your triangle roofs on top of that. The advantage here is you're not going to have to rebuild those foundations. Instead, all you're going to have to rebuild is the roofways. So yeah, you can see me doing that right here. This is for a base that I'm building, but you can see that works. And yeah, that's basically the base that I created. So with this video, my challenge was to make a base that gets harder to raid the longer you're offline. Make sure you hit subscribe and peace.